So I've had a lot of hobbies in my life, Peter, but I think the key lesson I've taken away from the one that we've shared for the longest amount of time was when one is given a suspicious puzzle box, you should not try to open it. Here on Beezer Please, a bonus episode for our Patreon aficionados. My name is Joseph.
I'm just an explorer in the further region of experience. Your co-host, Peter.
So as promised, we have elected, now that we've run through all of the TOS era movies for our patrons, to start exploring things that have Trek connections. And one of the things we did in the past that was very warmly received is we reviewed Reanimator because of Jeffrey Combs. And so this time we have decided to dig into the 1987 film Hellraiser. Because Andrew Robinson, better known to us as Garak, is the lead actor in it.
Mm-hmm.
Also because you and I have long teased that we actually became friends because we shared a hobby together, being, and I shit you not, Vampire the Masquerade LARPers. There's no secret anymore.
Well, this now is Patreon that is going to have to join Tank Girl, and that it is behind a paywall forever.
And this movie is one of many films that and pop culture references that define a lot of that space that you and I interacted with, and we'll have some jokes about that, and we'll give some people some insight to what it is that's like. But very interesting experience watching this movie, Peter. It's my first time seeing it, actually, which I think shocked you when I told you I had not seen it before.
Yeah, and there's horror, which is slashers, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then you start getting into like science fiction fantasy horror,
which is this definitely is that. Absolutely.
And I remember as a kid certainly being more interested in this kind of stuff, and it's still a scary movie, so you got to get through that to see like the cool fantasy story that's there. I would not say this thing was scary at all as a 43-year-old. Who knows how I would have felt about it younger, but this thing's pregnant with some really rich ideas. So again, this is
very interesting. And it was written and directed by Clive Barker himself, who is the author of the original short story, which I guess he isn't a big director. Like, I think he only have ever directed 2 films ever. He's more a writer. And this is, I think, the most unqualified success of the material that he's ever produced. So odd to me, he's never really returned back to the director's chair as a primary focus, because I think he did quite a good job of putting this movie together. But done on $1 million in 1987, which that got you more in 1987 for sure, but still not a very big budget. Made a decent chunk back, $20 million in revenue from box office, and a clean 90 minutes, which is another thing I loved about watching this movie. Is like,
yes,
no, we are wasting no one's time here. Like, we're in and we're out, and the story is complete, and I know everything I need to know.
So let's have the big picture conversation first. Like, did you like this movie?
I did. I think I liked it in part because of the creativity of the premise. Because this has got such pop culture penetration, I kind of knew a lot about the movie before having seen it. So I tried to put that out of mind as I watched it, and thinking about it at the time it was made. And I was like, this is actually quite a clever idea, right?
Yeah.
To deliver this idea of a demonic, infiltration horror movie, but actually it's more of a science fiction thing. And it's the metaphor through which some of these things had been interpreted. You can see they'd only suggest it, but like the way Pinhead says, demons to some, angel to others, that the stories of these things are actually originating from them. And so these things aren't like a supernatural heaven and hell circumstance, but almost a science fiction alien story.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very interesting.
Incredibly creative, man. And what was it about the 80s where you could just get away with telling wild ass stories?
Because you only spent $1 million to make them. I mean, I think that's the answer. Is it was cheap. You
It's
can just take a
cheap.
flyer on this shit, and if it pans out, it pans out.
I mean, movies were a bigger deal. Again, in 2025, like theater is so close to being dead. There's no
Yeah.
more blockbusters. The U.S. Hollywood apparatus is got two black eyes and crutches. You got a lot of movies starting to come into the U.S. now from abroad and doing better than domestic stuff here. And the studios have like homogenized, right? Like it's monolithic studios. You don't got the smaller guys out there putting out wild shit.
Except A24, like that's the outlier, right?
Yeah, I
A24
mean,
still
this
pulls
is
that down.
A24. Yeah. I got to take a lot of that back, but just really, what's it called? Blue water. That's where it's vast potential, right?
Correct.
Just tell a wild story. That's it's horror, but really, this is a story about interdimensional explorers. Uh,
It it's very much a cautionary tale, like good horror movies tend to be.
mm-hmm.
It very much has a moral element to it that is fascinating. I think it's probably the most interesting part of the movie,
Yeah,
uh, and you know it leaves the viewer feeling kind of disturbed, and you can say it has a good ending in the sense that you know the the final girl in fact manages to banish all of the demonic entities, but at the same time like it's come at a horrific cost and has not actually solved any of the problems. And I like that, like the cyclical nature of it, you know, that ending, it's this did not end anything,
no,
and it's probably impossible to end.
yes, explicitly. The moral of the story in this is you don't watch this movie if you're trying to have sex. My kids are out of town this week, and I've had the house to myself with my wife. So there's a lot of stuff on the table that's not normally. And that was the direction I thought the night was going to go. And then I was like,
Watch
well, fuck,
this.
I got to watch. You want to watch a couple episodes of Veep, and then we're going to, watch this Hellraiser, and then, we'll see where the night goes. The night went nowhere after this guy. I forgot the level of maggot content in this.
I think the less the maggot and this, so this is going to be the thing that I found the most fascinating about it, and it's maybe the most challenging thing to talk about as relates to the movie, because I very much mean it when I say you couldn't make this movie now, and that is the sexual content in the movie and what it says about the concept of consent within the film. The key part of this movie is in the character of Julia, and that Frank's brother, or not Frank's brother, so
Larry.
Larry's brother Frank,
Larry is Garak.
Andrew Robinson,
Yeah.
and we'll get to him in a second. I just love that he plays a kind of like the doofy, well-meaning dad. It just was kind of unexpected. I'm so used to him being Garak.
Yeah. And man,
But
the fucking eyes right through. Like,
oh yeah, you can hear it, you can see it.
yeah.
He's him, but I think he went for a more affable Alan Alda type of character portrayal for the majority of this movie. You know, like from Hawkeye from MASH type of character, because that would have been big at the time.
And he's top
And
billing on this, isn't he?
he is.
What's he got prior to this?
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I looked all that up. This Andrew Robinson is one of those. He's had a working career since the 1960s. Okay, so his first credited appearance was 1969 on a show called NYPD, and he was most famous for playing a psychotic serial killer in Dirty Harry in '71. Prior to this is 15 years even after
He's
that.
got crazy eyes.
So you know he plays a lot of villains in TV shows, like one shot, two shot characters, and villains in movies. So he's a role player in this space at this time. So the idea that he's playing this role in this movie makes a lot of sense, because especially because he's playing the villain at the end. Interesting note, he's the one that convinced Clive Barker to change the line at the end to Jesus wept, which it worked incredibly well, by the way. That was an excellent choice on Robinson's part to convince him of that.
What was it originally
Really,
supposed to be?
fuck you. Not as interesting. Andrew Robinson's career success is Star Trek, to be clear. That's where he had the most staying power. You know, he did a billion episodes and all kinds of other material afterwards because of it, right? Because of that, he started getting into more top tier science fiction, particularly on television, making guest appearances and just doing tons and more Deep Space Nine related Star Trek content through the years. So he comes in this movie kind of as a veteran villain. And the fact that he's playing the doofy Alan Alda style, you know, charming dad uh, for the majority of the film was a little strange, but I kind of got it. But let's put that aside for a second. This movie hinges on his brother showing up and fucking his bride to be. Okay, that's what this movie absolutely hinges on. And those scenes, man, you think Zoomers can get apocalyptic about fucking sex scenes in movies now? Holy shit, have them watch Hellraiser. Because I know, and you know, that was not rape. But they would say it is. I think that is absolutely true. There's a huge generational divide between is that rape or not, and you and me would say that's not rape.
Oh, it's just her being unfaithful and his brother being an absolute piece of shit. These are two bad people finding each other, and I would say Frank certainly opens the door for her moral decay, or at least accelerates it.
Right. Dicks her down so good that it basically turns her into a villain. Like fucks her on top of the wedding dress.
I saw that browser video. That was a good one.
Like just absolute degeneracy, and yet she wants it. She invites it. She decides that this is something she wants to do. And that's clear enough to me. But I think that if you showed this to a 25-year-old, they'd be like, why did you just show me a rape movie?
I think you're overreacting on that one.
I don't think so? Okay.
This will be a good Facebook or Discord discussion, I think.
I think so too. That's where I think the meat on the bone is here. Like, there's no ambiguity to me. Like, I absolutely see that this is a story of her moral degeneracy and this lingering morality that slowly diminishes over time as it relates to her unwillingness to sacrifice Larry specifically.
Yes. Again, so you got a horror movie, you got the science fiction element, you've got a very compelling just domestic infidelity movie.
Yeah.
That again, this all just boils down to a not even a failed relationship, but just like this weird.
But the relationship
other guy,
just didn't actually start, and it's unknown to the main character as to what happened and to why. Like it's a mystery to him.
You don't. In movies, you see a femme fatale often lead the guy down a path of moral decay. And off the top of my head, this is the only time I can really think of like the guy is the bad one and leads the woman into a ruin and manipulates to a greater end. Like you'll have, because essentially she becomes a henchman, right?
Yeah.
Like he is arguably the bad guy, and he employs her as a minion to go out and bring him sacrifices and to do the killing. And I feel like you get a lot of movies where it's a girl jerking a guy around to do that, but it's rare to see like, okay, this guy is the manipulator. So quick side thought. I'm watching this thing and I'm like, man, the entire premise of this thing is overlapped with Beetlejuice so hard.
Beetlejuice.
You've got a doofy, well-intentioned dad and his kind of a bitch redhead wife. Yes. And they have moved away from the big city out into Podunksville. And
they moved to London or England. So, like,
they don't really express that well, I don't think.
They don't make that explicit, but it's implied because it's Julia is British.
It's her home territory. Not in the thick of it by any stretch of the imagination. They're somewhere significantly less metro than Brooklyn. And you got to remember too, Brooklyn in the 80s was the hellhole, right?
Yes.
So, we think about New York now, and it's a much different picture of whatever New York was back in fucking 79 or whenever this thing would have, feasibly been set.
Yeah. In case you're unaware, New York really sucked from like 1972 to 1996.
So you've got the wife who's not thrilled about being in this shitty house that is not up to snuff. You've got the daughter with the dead, the daughter-in-law factored in, and
No, not
then
daughter-in-law. That's a daughter of the of
stepdaughter.
Larry, who is the stepdaughter to Julia. Yes,
Right.
and because her birth mother passed away.
So it's the same load up. It's just, instead of it being a cheeky, crazy Tim Burton movie, it's chains and faces getting ripped off.
Yes, and you know, throughout, Larry is portrayed as a good guy. He is trying to make his relationship work. He's very other centered as it relates to both her and his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be accommodating of their what they want to do. Comes off as a touch of a pushover, and it all adds to the tapestry of the story of Julia, where she feels some amount of regret, but not regret. She still wants what she got out of Frank, right? Like, seriously, that dick was so good. I want more. But she feels bad for having betrayed Larry, even though she says explicitly she doesn't love him, doesn't want to abandon him, and doesn't want to kill him. And you see why, because he's very kind and gracious, and he loves her, and it's just not reciprocated. And the story is really about that last piece of her moral core, which is really her unwillingness to allow him to die,
Mm-hmm.
slowly get ate away at as she's willing to do literally anything else, like kill strangers, kill his daughter.
Yeah.
And then when that doesn't work out, finally saying, okay, fine, we can kill Frank, and we can kill Larry, and I'll totally give in to my hedonistic desire to be with Larry. Or
With
to
Frank.
kill, I'm sorry, Larry's the nice guy. We'll kill Larry. I want to be with Frank. Finally, I'm going to give in to that.
So they move in, and then you've got the next character you get introduced to, which is this fucking house. And it's funny,
Yes.
too, because I just saw an article, one of these side page, whatever, that this house was recently sold, and God only knows how many millions it sold for. I will tell you, as a homeowner, I am watching this whole fucking thing, and it's like very clear to me that this is not a set. This is not a stage.
This is a house. This
They
is someone's
found
house.
a ran the fuck down house in the hood, and that they're filming in this thing. And it's got campus housing written all over it, like the overly shellacked doors that are just reflecting off all the lights. They film a lot of stuff on that staircase up on the third floor, and there's like where the water damage has just completely made the ceiling fall apart, and there's just this black hole in the wall that is actively weeping water the entire time they're filming near it. I can smell this house. I have been in this house a million times in other people's poor, trashy campus area.
This is a classic 1910s to 1920s, before standardization of housing. This would have been a big deal to own in kind of Victorian era, right? Like, this would have been a palatial estate, and then just gone to seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the legacy construction methods made it so that it continues to stand despite itself, but it is going to require some work to put back together, and a lot of money. And
Guarantee you there's asbestos in this house.
oh god, it's made of asbestos. It's like only asbestos, plaster, asbestos, and wood.
Yeah. Budget horror is always interesting. I've been involved in a couple budget horror movies.
Yes, you have an IMDb entry because of it.
Uncredited stuff in there too. It's just a very weird vibe on set when you're filming out of like legit old hospitals or ran down barns or whatever. These aren't set pieces. You're filming on set. You got to really worry about nails and stuff hanging off the wall and cutting you up. Like, feels all very guerrilla. The house is a character. The fucking music in this thing, and normally it's you that wants to talk about music, but this thing opens up to I think if you played the opening intro music to anybody else, they're going to tell you that you're listening to Home Alone.
Yes.
It's Home Alone music 100% until it turns into Harry Potter music.
It's very whimsical.
This is the Home Alone leaves, and this becomes firm Harry Potter music. And watching terrible hell shit go on to Harry Potter music is a real fucking trip. Also, quick side note, I ended up getting a copy of this that was, I think, a remaster, and I stopped very quickly. And I was like, this is not a movie that benefits from uh remastering, and I could not find like a shitty legit 80s like everything's blurry 480p copy of this.
I did. It was on Plex.
Well,
One of
you're
our
lucky,
yeah.
because the remaster on this, you start seeing like when the demon's coming down the hallway, like the
See the
labyrinth,
strings and shit. Yeah.
you can see the guy's fucking legs in black jeans behind it, and like just how bad all the prosthetics of like torn up face pieces and stuff look. I really regret seeing this thing in an upscale.
Um, Full credit to the fact they spent their money on creature designs and makeup. Yeah, it's obviously where the money for this went, and it was well spent given what little resources they had and the creativity they put into it. The design of the Cenobites themselves,
Yes.
obviously iconic in one particular case, but honestly undersold on the rest of them. Right, the chattering one, the female one,
Mm-hmm.
the fat one that's licking its lips all the
That's
time.
Butterball. The girl's name is Deep Throat. And then there's a Chatterer, and then there's, interestingly, they call him Lead Cenobite, but it's, will come to be known as Pinhead.
Excellent costume, makeup decisions on all of that as it relates to the story behind them, right? You see, they say very little, but their appearance says a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's communicated extraordinarily well in the movie, and probably why it was as successful as it was. When you think about it, it's just it all the designs stick with you. Like, wow, it was well executed. Really, like that is a lot of makeup you had to put on them, but it
So
works.
back to my folly of thinking there might actually be sex in my night after watching this thing. You have a lasting mental impression of Hellraiser where it's like, all right, there's kinky stuff that's going on. Like, these guys are all in these bondage outfits. I remember the chains, the whips, like, it seems very fetish in past recollection, but like actively watching it, and there was a fair amount of discussion about this in my house after the movie was over. Like, I don't think Clive Barker wrote this as a fetish piece, like to
New.
express like any sort of like Quentin Tarantino foot stuff, right?
If
But
anything,
I
the sex in it is very dialed down. Like it happens, but you don't see anything, and is not being done in a fashion to consider that it's a positive thing that's going on.
no, and like when he's getting hit by the chains and stuff, it's not overtly sexy. And Frank as a deviant is an interesting character because he is a hedonist through and through, and that's what brings him to this point with the lament configuration, the cube, where he willfully brings these experiences to him because he's looking for the next high. Like, it's, this mix of pleasure and pain that he's after and he finds as he's ripped apart, but it's not like this overtly sexy experience when it happens. So I don't think that Clive Barker wrote this thing to accommodate his fetish, but I can certainly see where some people's fetishes were informed by this moving forward.
Yes. So let's talk a bit about stories of the demonic, Peter, and something you and I have a tremendous amount of experience with. So you mentioned the lament configuration was the puzzle box, which brings us forward. And the concept that Frank is tempted into inviting these experiences onto him because he has run through what he thinks he can experience as a normal person. He's such a hedonist. He has done so much that he's got to find the next high, as you put it.
He's fucked all of the girls, which props to Frank. Frank's stick game is good enough that he has convinced women to come back to this ramshackle hobo hotel he has somehow acquired and bring them up to the third floor where there's a mattress with a permanent indent, and get them to agree to not only have sex with him in this haunted house, but also let him take Polaroids of it.
It's just he has an enchanted dick. Like,
It's the most.
you watch it happen. He fucks Julia, and then Julia's like, I will literally do anything you want
His
forever.
dick is the most supernatural part of this entire movie.
Yeah, like that dick is the most enchanted, spectacular member ever to be gifted to a human being.
And Casey calls it out too. She's like, "You're telling me this guy is bringing people back to this fucking house in this mattress laying on the floor, and he's banging them out there?" And I'm like, hey, "Listen, man, we're trying to tell a story, and the story is this guy is landing it." And Julia sees all this too, right? Like, what is the setup, real quick? So Larry's family owns the house. Larry's clearly American, but he's got this house in London that somehow his brother has been squatting in and bringing women through for his nefarious purposes. It's a little hazy. It's not a part I think we really need to fully explore here. But yeah, like Frank.
It's what they sacrificed to keep the movie to an hour and a half, and I appreciate it. I don't fucking need to know. I know enough.
Sure. Frank is traveled well. Obviously, he's from America. He's got this London pad. I think he ends up scoring the box in Turkey from like a weird Morocco. So this Indiana Jones scene here where I like the line when he gets the configuration too, where it's like, take it. It's always been yours.
Yeah.
Like this is fated to happen. And having, I don't know, not discovered fentanyl yet.
This movie doesn't happen in a world with fentanyl. Cenobites are pissed. Can't get her hands on anybody.
Frank's too good to just OD on heroin like any other self-respecting junkie.
Demonic temptation stories are difficult to do. The most common way you often see the trope is you are a person that wants power. You make a deal with the devil to achieve the power you want. But of course, the power you achieve comes at a cost that is not agreeable, and maybe even the vengeance you get is not as satisfactory as you want, and you regret your decision, right? Like when you and I were playing the characters we were playing in LARP that makes this movie kind of relevant to that experience, we were to boil this all the way down, we were kind of stuck in this spot where we became hall monitors of people having experiences like this. Like the plot of the World of Darkness permits this sort of demonic temptation stuff to happen within its fictional constructs because it's all a lot of supernatural creatures in it. And the details aren't important, but you and I wound up playing characters that were stuck having to deal with everyone's different versions of this story, right?
Well, let's stop there because the critical part of this, when we're talking about a role-playing game, is that the demonic temptation always boiled down to, I want overpowered magic powers on my sheet.
So that I can do shit. Yeah.
So that I am more effective as a killer. And I want access to forbidden magics. And this is the quick and easy way to get it. And the problem in those games we were playing in is that the price to get that power was not adequate for telling a story about ruin and betrayal. Because what you described earlier is, oh, I got this power, but the cost was not worth it. And now I'm suffering or I'm dying or I'm being dragged to hell. And in the game we're playing, you and I became the consequence that people had to worry about. It wasn't the demons fucking you over. It wasn't your own moral decay ruining you as a person. It's the fun police have found out that I have stolen magic. And now they're going to come
here to do something about it.
Blade Runners are coming and I'm going down.
Yeah. So, and this has to do with a lot of what we lamented, which was that unfortunately our hobby had a tendency to attract what you often call the lowest common denominator. Like that the experience was degraded to the level where the people who couldn't grasp having like an experience of personal horror were engaging in things and not, and it wasn't making tonal sense. And in a certain way, we were sort of an antibody to that, in that we put ourselves in a position to inflict those consequences externally, which to our enjoyment, admittedly, because the people who are individually running the games and the people who are playing some of these characters weren't as sophisticated enough to do that. And so we ended up seeing a lot of different versions of this story, some better than others, but oftentimes very basic, even when it was performed correctly, it was still, I want to make an exchange for power. and I'm going to use that power to do things. This is a so much better version, in my opinion, of this kind of story, because this isn't about power. All right. Like, Frank isn't getting some sort of capacity to manipulate the world. That's not his ambition. His ambition is to find some new pleasurable high to experience, and is willing to degrade himself and accept this temptation in order to achieve that, which should be a more common kind of story when it comes to demonic temptation. And I don't think you necessarily see that very often.
Yeah, Frank's motivations, I can't think of anything in media that I would have seen before this or aware of that touches on hedonism as a primary motivator. The other thing on top of, hey, I want magic power, is I want to bring someone back from the dead, or
dead. Yeah.
I want to cheat reality somehow.
Right.
I want to be rich. I want, it's really like the three things that the genie refuses to do in Aladdin, right? Is bring people back from the dead,
force people to love you. And yeah.
And that's all shit hell will hook you up with. But him going in there and just being like, I want to sell my soul, essentially. And I don't know, like, what the hell did he really think was going to happen? Was it just like, man, I heard a rumor that there's a great new drug out on the street called the Cube, and you do it, these guys will come show me a good time, and then what? They pack up and leave?
So that's it. The interesting part about the economy of the movie is that there's a lot it chooses not to fully explain to you.
Mm-hmm.
What we know is that Frank is a hedonist. Frank has all of this experience in being a ne'er-do-well, and Frank wants something more. How Frank came to the knowledge that somehow getting his hand on this box and solving for it would provide him with that experience goes completely unremarked in the movie. But do you need to know? All you need to know is this guy is so in search of the next high that it found him, right? It was always yours.
There is a custodian of this box that I think is very specifically engineering these encounters.
Yes.
The bug-eating hobo / skeleton dragon.
Yes, / frostworm. Yes.
Is clearly taking care of this box and prevents it from being destroyed and gets the box back into the peddler's hand. So I don't need... And this is Star Trek, right? Show me what's happening. You don't need to explain it, and let me come to my own conclusions, because it's accessible enough that I can fill in the blanks. There's a guy who sells weird shit. This is a world where weird shit's out there, and if people are looking for it, it's looking for you too. Yes. It is not difficult to find these things if you are what it wants.
Right. Like, you just have to accept the premise that the Cenobites and this box and all of this, whatever this is, resonates enough in the world that it can find its way to the things that are seeking it out subconsciously.
I want to pause here, because we're talking about the cool negative space in the movie where you can assume. And the Hellraiser franchise is long. I want to say there's 6+ installments.
It doesn't sound like
2022. It goes downhill hard. The second one gets more into the cosmology of like what the when we're saying hell, it's not really hell, right? This isn't Judeo-Christian hell. These things seem demonic, but again, I'm of the opinion that this is science fiction, and these are just aliens, and this is what they're into. And by our morality, sometimes they're confused as good, and sometimes they're confused. Well, you're not confusing them for bad. These guys are fucking evil and assholes too. We'll get to the betrayal at the end that I think felt very out of place. But they're out there looking to make contact with people, looking to fulfill their own desires with willing participants. And this thing's moving around. So also, it's the 80s. Things are kind of racist. Like, sure, Morocco.
It was like James Hong in the background too. So
it is
even like, yeah. So it sounded like him. So
it is James Hong. He is in IMDb.
So yeah, it's not even like fully racist. Like, all right, we're in Morocco, and now we have the guy who plays every Chinese character.
Mm-hmm.
It's like confused at how it wants to be racist. The creeping dread of what is Julia going to do, as like the big okay. Actually, the next thing I want to talk about is how fantastic the sort of reformation of Frank is in the
Oh my
attic
god.
after the blood gets spilled. I didn't know what to expect with that. Like, how are they going to bring him back? What's going on? Like, clearly that's what they're indicating with the blood hitting the ground. Like, what's going to occur? I did not expect a full on, like, strange demonic birth scene. That ruled. That was so cool.
That's probably a big chunk of this budget was pulling that off.
Yeah, it just looked nasty and gnarly and otherworldly, and it felt like something trying to emerge back into the real world from another plane of existence where, physical reality had no meaning. Which is where the Cenobites kind of come from. So, like, if the idea of like it's like piercing a membrane, and whatever his like baleful spirit is trying to reform itself around the spilt blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is more stuff that the movie doesn't explain and just allows you to experience. Why can Frank reconstitute himself from the living essence of other people? I don't know, probably because he was with these guys, and that just has left him with some capacity that they have to manipulate reality, uh, to be able to accomplish this. I don't feel like I didn't know enough about that. Right, the implication of all of this is sufficient that I see that he's able to like use that as a connection to pull himself back into the world, but he needs more. He needs more juice to be able to completely reform himself. So he's stealing organs, he's stealing blood, ultimately steals
Nailing rats
skin.
to the wall.
Yeah, like as he starts to have sensation again, he starts to kind of lose it because it's like I feel things, I taste things, but now I want to experience more things. And like he goes from kind of rational to irrational very quickly because of that.
Was Frank ever rational? I don't think. When your first introduction to Frank is him showing up to bang his brother's fiance sight unseen,
On
you know what you.
on her wedding dress.
Yeah. Uh, I did Frank expect to survive his Cenobite encounter? I think so. I don't
Yeah.
think he was aware that he was going to be unmade. And as you're saying, like this series of unfortunate events that have perfectly aligned to introduce Larry's blood to the murder site of Frank. Because I think that happens pretty early in the movie. You see the Cenobites standing around this god awful burned out room in the attic where
Yeah, it happens in the beginning. Yeah.
Frank actually unlocked the lament configuration and got tortured and killed. And they're nice. They clean up. They don't want to break the masquerade and let the normies know about them. They're trying to keep this as an exclusive BDSM service where they're able to charge top dollar, at least $800 per session. And yeah, like Frank is under the floorboards, or at least what's left of him.
It's like a piece of him. Yeah.
It's apparently his heart. I don't know, man. Like the answer to how to make a good horror is don't explain things, and that is a answer that is that's a fact that the rest of this franchise miserably fails at, because they try to explore every corner of this and it just gets worse and worse. Like this is absolutely the sweet spot of kooky shit's happening. Why? Because it's evil.
I can't think of a worse idea than to try and explain the Cenobites more. Like that's the fact that you don't fucking know anything about them is what's horrific, is what makes the movie. If there were sequels to this, I presumed it was just, them continuing to torture new people,
No,
not exploring their mythos. That's the last thing you want to fucking know about.
absolutely. Listen, man,
That's fucking wild.
Driz, what's his name? Driz Dirt or whatever. The drow.
Oh yeah,
Fucking,
Drizzt. Yeah.
that is exactly what happened here. Hellraiser and White Wolf make the same fucking mistakes, and everybody does. Is you put something cool out, and it's cool because it's unknown, and then you go, all right, we're not telling good stories. We're trying to sell movie tickets. We're trying to sell this IP, and you come out of this. We're doing this podcast right now. It's a lot of what if and just great guesswork and coming up with your own ideas. And the way you sell tickets is you go, we're going to get into this. We're going to give people what they want. We're going to have less creative people what they want. And we are going to explicitly explore this stuff. And even if it's a shit product, the premise of finding out more about these incredibly interesting things is going to sell splat books and expansions and movie sequels and coffee table books and all of this.
So it's funny you bring up White Wolf in this conversation of explaining too much, because that is a example of how that stuff doesn't survive the intentions of the people making it.
Yes.
So if you're not familiar with the collection of the World of Darkness related material that Peter and I are referencing that Vampire the Masquerade is a part of, it's a very large role playing game setting that was most popular from in the 90s into the early 2000s. And it was based on the premise that there are different kinds of supernatural creatures lurking in the background of a world much like ours, except kind of shitty and worse, right? The World of Darkness, where everything's just not quite working the way that it should, and things are have worse outcomes for everybody, and it's all gritty, kind of sort of a gothic punk-ish vibe to it. And it's a great setting when you are willing to constrain your experiences within it, to be able to do interpersonal role playing and storytelling, because you're able to use the premise of playing supernatural creatures to be able to explore concepts that would otherwise be difficult to explore under any other circumstance. Now, White Wolf got into the habit of trying to create this sort of unified cosmology, meta plot, explaining things, because people didn't necessarily hunger for the simple experience. They wanted, there were nerds ultimately, were the ones that were really that enjoyed the product, not drama people. And that led them to wanting to do more things and explain more things and do more things to try and exploit that, but at the same time try and provide some sort of narrative connection between what was otherwise seems very disparate, right? Like you've got werewolves and vampires and ghosts,
Mummies,
mummies, even
fairies.
fairies, and in a way they succeed, but it's at the cost of the small, which is what the best part of it is.
Yes.
And like, for example, Demon the Fallen, which is the last game that they made. Demon is actually the most interesting thing that they produced, because it ties together everything else. It actually gives context to all of the other supernatural creatures, because it says the experiences everyone had was real. It was just their prehistory is a metaphorical interpretation of what this story was, which is the backstory, the ancient backstory of vampire, the ancient backstory of werewolf, all this stuff. It was just the aftermath of literal, like the fall of Lucifer and all of the like biblical beginning of the world. And through this, you're able to tell a story of like what happens when those creatures come back, and they have like this incredible amount of power, but a very limited capacity to use it because it requires faith, and no one has faith in them anymore. Cool. You could tell a very interesting story that way, but no one cared about that. All they cared about was how this all manages to fit into this meta plot that leads to this big end of the world scenario at the end. It was deeply frustrating being a fan of all this stuff and wanting to tell the A stories and having to deal with worlds of people who only wanted the B, who only wanted to dig deep and like know the secrets and all this other stuff. And you and I, when we played our characters, we tried to portray, like, I think realistically, characters that lived in that universe that were suffering the consequences of exploring things that weren't meant to be explored in our own ways. And we were often disappointed by everybody else's inability to do that.
We see in Star Trek episodes what happens when you try to over explain something that did not need an explanation.
Yes.
When you destroy mystery. Why? I don't know. Again, I think we've really correctly identified why they over explain things in role playing games and stuff where you're selling additional content, whether you're selling books.
It's absolutely a commercial element. You're correct to bring it up.
Or you're selling sequels, which is what's going to happen here in Hellraiser. But the magic and the right answer is always put something cool on screen, make it feasible enough, let people come up with their own details, and don't go any deeper than that. And as far as that goes, these Cenobites work really well. I like that they're not traditional demons. I like that they've got their own agenda. I like that they seem to be playing by rules. I like the intergalactic travel. I like that people are seeking them out, and that, again, you've got outside elements guiding this stuff. So, yeah, Frank ends up ripped up all over the floor. Larry moves into this place. It's Julia. She's over there. Fucking the worst moving company of all time.
Yes. Although I do, like, inability to get a bed up those steps. I can understand
that's
that.
the most
horror. That's the most realistic part of the film by far.
We're
Pivot.
watching this, and Casey's just
Even
like,
Garak can't pivot.
yeah. And Gary Casey's like, God, do you remember trying to bring that mattress upstairs? And I'm like, vividly. Like, that is the true Hellraiser, is moving and moving the bed. And I think you get a hint at Julia's infidelity, like right there at the beginning, because she's like making eyes at the guy, and that moving guy that they give the beers to, which also, hey, I'm paying you guys to help move me in. We're not getting drunk on my dime.
Especially when we're not finished yet. We're
Yeah,
mid moving the bed. Beers come after the bed is in place.
Larry, what the fuck are you doing? But that guy, the lead moving guy, I think was in contention to be. He was one of the possible pinheads, but they went with the other guy
Yes.
instead. So yeah, he gets his hand ripped open, brings Frank back to life, and then it becomes this like understanding of, I don't know how, but blood feeds me. And it's interesting too that the first idea is like, let's go get randos and bring them up here for me to murder. And it's not, oh, my brother's blood is bringing me back. Like, I'm getting real bang for the buck here. Can you cut his arm off somehow and bring it up here?
Well,
No,
I
it's
mean, I think that's what he wants. It's Julia's resistance to that is what's actually the key part of the middle of the movie, is that Julia doesn't want to sacrifice Larry, so she brings back randos instead.
I want to jump back over to rape. Her
We love
bringing
that. We love
people.
that around here to jump back to it.
Well, like she brings back these guys from the bar, and my wife's like, okay, so she's just going to murder this guy. And then he starts getting like overly handsy and starts getting like real rapey vibes. And it's like, oh, okay, we've passed the moral.
Yeah, no, there's a real switch in her head where she's like not sure she can go through with it, and he starts acting kind of like a rapey asshole, and she's suddenly like, "Okay, let's go upstairs."
Maybe I will
You
hit you
see
in
the
the head with
switch.
the
You
hammer.
see the switch happen.
Yeah. All these guys she brings back, and it's like, hey, come on back. We're going to have a midday fuck. I'm going to bring you upstairs. I would like to hump you in this burned out bedroom that clearly looks like a murder hole. And all these guys just, nobody's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not. You are not that attractive, ma'am. And I am not laying down on exposed floorboards in this burned out room. Also, where's Frank hiding? Because he's just stuck in this room while she's murdering these people. Like, nobody can see the Tarman ghoul in the corner that is skinless.
That's like he's just gonna watch. Just
His various states of disrepair are really cool too. The amount
yeah,
of phlegm and slime on him. It's not just blood. He's got like all of the filth.
oh
And
yeah,
what would we said before, like about do not put hell in your mouth? Her willingness to
yes.
put his grody ass fingers in her mouth really just seals the deal on how she's going to end up in
Elias
all
Beecher
this.
would have been so disappointed in her. I would have tribunaled the fuck out of Julia Cotton.
Yeah.
Would have happened for sure.
So she's feeding them dudes left and right.
You're done.
And he's getting poor return on interest with these murders. Also, how many people do they kill? Like 4 or 5?
3.
It's got
3 plus Larry 4. Yeah.
There's a lot of dead bodies in this house, and they do not look like they're in good state to repair it. The fact that nobody smells absolute hell upstairs, where these guys just have mouthfuls of maggots. Like I
really liked how the dead bodies reveal like there's different parts of them that he's like absorbed.
Yeah.
And it all depends on who it is. Like obviously at the end, Larry is the kind of the second to last victim because he takes his skin because it's one thing he's missing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he gets wounded by Christy, he takes a bunch of like, I don't know, vital essence blood out of Julia.
She gets an appropriate raw deal.
She does.
She's trying to hold Chrissy, and Frank's got this switchblade he's real fond of. And it almost feels like he went after Julia specifically.
I think once he needed to, what they don't say but imply at the end of the movie is that they know that the Cenobites can be satisfied by taking Christy instead, and they're trying to basically let that happen. And she is, running away from it, resisting it, whatever. And he's trying to evade them. So he's trying not to go up there, or he's trying not to like reveal who he is, right? That's why he's put on his brother's skin to hide.
Mm.
But And it's why, like, at the end, it's his hubris of mocking her right before he's going to kill her that causes him to reveal himself to them.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's meant there. And like when that starts to break bad and he wounds her, you know, his disguise is no longer perfect, and so he needs another body to kill to be able to absorb, you know, to repair it. And it's like, well, I don't actually care about you, so I'm gonna take it from you. Like, you are the one that's addicted to my enchanted cock. And I just gave you another, you know, I just flipped another fuck at you here a little bit ago, so you can, you know, die happy, I suppose.
His decision not to kill Larry was interesting as he's standing over the bed, and Julia starts begging, no, no. Yeah, there's a lot of consent issues in this.
Yes, there is. And
If anybody's going to take
it's
issue,
interesting because she's still hanging on to the last thread of her morality and is begging Frank not to kill Larry. And, you know, Larry is like, what the fuck? I can't. You're so. Why are you so crazy? You know, doesn't understand any of it. What's
well,
going
you
on?
see, Larry, your brother Frank is over here cock blocking you real hard right now as we're trying to get it on. He is standing over the bed, literally bisecting a rat. Like, how am I supposed to be in the mood for here, Andy? Get off of me. Or, yeah, Larry. Um, yeah,
I did like that Garak showed up once Frank puts on Larry's skin. You know, like I saw the Garak at that point
and
of
that's why Andy Robinson was cast for this. Was like, we want surprise. We want you to actually be the bad guy. You are going to
yeah
be the bad guy that matters. You're going to be. He steals the skin. There is just slime and bloody plasma leaking out of this guy's seams as he convinces the daughter that, like, no, everything's done. We killed the bad guy. Boy was crazy, but you know everything's fine now. Never mind how blood is just magically oozing out of me for some reason. The Cenobites, my criticism in the movie is that they seem to have their own consent thing going on, right? Like, Frank needs to admit who he is. They can't just recapture this guy who has arguably escaped them. And I guess that's something interesting, is that blood is spilled on the floor where he died. He's not actually in that room. He gets pulled as presumably out of the hell dimension
yeah.
because they think that they have him under lock and key. But then Pinhead's like, I'm willing to trade your life. You unlocked the cube. You brought us here, daughter. We're taking you to hell now, whether you like it or not. You know, you're about to get the business here. And she's like, well, I know about Frank, and I think that you're going to want him. So let's make a deal. I'm going to make a deal with the devil. I'll trade you this guy for my own freedom. And they're like, okay, cool. But we need to hear it out of his own mouth. We can't just act, you know, this guy needs to admit it. So they've got this hard and fast rule in terms of Frank consenting or, you know, acknowledging that it's him and that, you know, it's appropriate. But then he does that and they renege on the deal and they go after her ass as well. And I didn't like that. I felt like the Cenobites work better as like this force of nature that's very rigid and very terrible, but still has, like, you know, these demonic contracts in place, and them turning around and still going after her. I did not care for it all.
Well, they're not actually demons, so you can't use those tropes, right? Like, we're used to the demonic trope of like demons can't break their contracts, can't break their word, because it gives you this sort of limiting principle that's important in those stories.
Sure.
Like if you have a creature that's capable of gifting incredible power or doing things that would otherwise break all of the known rules of reality, you have to create a limiting principle by which that can be restrained, right? And that's often restrained in these stories by you make a deal, some sort of contract. Sometimes it's written, sometimes it's merely intent. Who knows? But the idea is that it's its avenue by which it can exert its power, and it's limited to the confines of those deals. These aren't demons. They're just asshole aliens. So they aren't bound by any agreement that they may or may not have made. Their only limiting principle is the box. And that's what's revealed at the end is I can banish you by closing this portal that you're using to interact. And I think that actually works. I like that they did. I like that they have no morality. I like that they aren't restrained by their word, that because it would
Frank
make no sense that they would be.
Frank has to admit it's him because that's our kink.
Yes, that's they
Uh,
wanted the satisfaction of hearing it because that's a sensation that's important to them. But
these guys are just Skeevians, basically.
yeah, they're corrupted, Skeevians.
Further corrupted, and they can interdimensional travel with their folding device.
Yeah, but
I want to talk about Steve, who
oh
sucks
yeah,
so bad that I think he's Steve's introduced during this dinner party scene. He looks like the love child between Tom Hanks and Bill Murray. Yeah, like, did you get that vibe from him?
no, he
He
didn't.
successfully woos the daughter by
Yeah,
showing a trick where he can fold a lit cigarette back into his own mouth.
well, I got the impression they were already dating
I
by
don't know.
then.
If I saw someone eat a cigarette, I would not go any further into the relationship with this person.
I got again. They don't explain it, but I'm pretty sure the quote room that she got that she didn't want to tell her father about was staying with her boyfriend, which is where she is ultimately when there's a big dream sequence in the middle of the movie. So I think that's a pre-existing relationship, and yeah, like he's he's not useless. He definitely shows up. He's trying to help Christy. He shows up at the end to try and help her escape and all of that. He's definitely a secondary character
He
ultimately.
hits a demon in the head with a bottle.
He does. He
This
does.
actor
It's a demon.
gives no fucks. He is so absent from every moment. Like the terrible horrors that he is watching unfolding, and this guy just has a does not give a shit look on his face the entire way through. I'm like, buddy, you just went through two major masquerade breaches here, right? You
Yeah,
had a
you should
wall
be losing
crawling
your
demon,
mind. Yeah.
some real Lovecraftian shit going on. You broke a milk bottle over a demon's head. You had to escape a house that was on fire and falling apart and that's funny too. Demons are just as susceptible to falling rocks as Odo. Butterball gets taken out by one of them. And then they go to a fire field where it's just some rubble, industrial rubble with chairs on fire and other bonfires. They throw the cube in the fire to destroy it. And then the bug eating hobo shows up, turns into aforementioned skeletal dragon, flies into the fire, grabs the
They're
cube,
just watching it happen.
and Steve's just sitting there again, no shits to give. Not never at any point does he say, "What the fuck?
What is happening?
What
What
is
is
this,
this?
Bajor? This guy's just so desensitized."
What a great way to wrap it up, right? Is this happening on Bajor? No one cares about all this magic happening in front of them.
But overall, I think this is a movie that's both harmed by its low budget, that they couldn't afford some better actors in some places. That the
Not Andrew
house,
Robinson, who's very well cast. Great.
yeah, man, just him being this over doofy dad and then turning into like a psycho killer. That was a real nice turn there. But I think it's also incredibly helped out by its low budget. That
Yes.
they had to keep this thing as lean and mean as possible. That they put the money they did have into some amazing directions with some great practical effects, some great gross out stuff, and that the real joy of this movie is just the refreshing take on horror, where it's about personal moral decay.
It's personal horror.
It is
It's got
personal.
there's no huge stakes here. It's the consequences of one man's quest to surpass the degeneracy that he has already experienced and what that means for everyone else.
That's interesting too. Like the limited scope of consequence here. If Jason's not taken out, Jason continues slaughtering. If Event Horizon isn't stopped, it's going to go back to Earth and bring hell with it. Freddy Krueger's going to keep terrorizing kids in their dreams. This worst case scenario,
Christy would have got to hell. That was the only thing that didn't happen is Christy would have been taken by the Cenobites.
I guess the worst case scenario here really is that Frank would get away and continue to kill and eat people, which I guess puts him on par with Jason Voorhees, kind of, right?
But I don't think he was doing it indiscriminately. It was purposeful. An outcome where Frank is able to wander back into the world and continue his hedonistic excess probably leads him right back to the Cenobites at some point.
I don't know. He's a pretty interesting monster because he's going to be constantly falling apart as his skin rots off and he
Is
hooks it
he?
on
I mean,
things.
they didn't really explore that either. It's hard to know.
Listen, his face got torn. He had to like goo up to replace it. Like I see him being a shambling horror of both ways, by the way, W and H. A shambling horror, killing people here and there to keep his foul masquerade going. But yeah, they're not saving the day; they're saving their own asses. It's very personal consequences and scope, and it's a nice look that there's a reality behind what you know. Big shout
Nope.
out too to the hospital scene where all she wants to do is call her dad, and this super creepy ass doctor who ends up coming back and seeking the cube out on his own. That's interesting too. Like touching the cube binds the cube to you, it seems.
Yeah, yeah. There's a sort of connection once you've touched it. You can't seem to lose it.
So presumably the doctor got it because they lift it off her when they find her passed out in the street, and for whatever reason, like commit her to an insane asylum. Oh, this lady again, it's the 80s. Like,
It's
oh,
the '80s. You could still do that.
she's got heat exhaustion and she's probably dehydrated. Let's lock her away in the cuckoo facility. All I want to do is call my dad. No, how about you figure this puzzle out instead? And I don't know if you saw, but I very clearly saw that right in front of her bed is a fucking phone.
Yes, right there.
It it is just this huge phone over her bed. I want to call my dad. I want to call my dad. Well, maybe I'll just do this puzzle and the hole is going to open on the wall and there's a labyrinth that looks like a big haunted house. Let me go check that out.
I did like when the chattering one showed up. It just started putting its fingers in her mouth for no particular reason. It was just like a nice touch of like it. These things don't have any concept of barriers. They don't care.
Listen, sometimes hell puts itself in your mouth, all right?
Yeah. Oh God. Well, that's as deep as I think we'll ever go on LARP stuff, everybody. So enjoy what you got. This was a very fun and interesting experience to watch. I'm very interested to know what everyone's opinion is as it relates to some of the concepts of consent within the film and the way they treat sex in it. Thanks for our patrons for sponsoring our continuing production of our show. We appreciate it, and we'll continue to find some interesting things to talk about. Take care, everybody.